Welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Hands podcast. Today, we are all sprinkled in skills. We're so excited to have Amy Lynn. She is NP and also owner of Gloderma, which is a huge training academy. You guys really need to check that out. They have the C2C Cadaver Lab coming up next weekend, actually. And also, she is the owner of Gloderma in Yardley, PA. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, my girl. I'm so happy to see you, and thank you for having me on your podcast today on this beautiful Friday.
I know, it's so great. It's like I'm so excited to be there next year. So like definitely you got not next year, next week. So you guys, if you haven't checked out the C2C Cadaver Lab, if you've never gotten that experience, definitely, if you've missed out on this year, definitely look out for those tickets and follow her page for everything that's going to go on next year. And like she has different trainings and different things that you guys can, look into, especially a lot of you guys are newer. So make sure.
Exactly. Yeah, honestly, our courses are literally like in 2023. Next week we were so excited about C2C. We have an awesome faculty. My squad in-house at Gloderma has been like just perfecting this course even from last year. We're now CME accredited, which is amazing. But the idea is really about the connection and the mentorship and like not just what happens in the lab itself, but a real like immersive experience. So we had lots of social events too, our after cadaver parties. You can basically like be a part of, getting to know some of those things like in a non-intimidating way. And we keep our style, like whether it's C2C or any of the trainings that I run, very, very boutique style. So, and really the relationships that come out of these courses is really what like adds to everyone's overall experience in medical aesthetics. So all ranges. And yeah, we have a lot of fun there. So stay tuned for many more to come for Glow Academy, our new space as well in Yardley. So I'm pumped.
I know. Yay. Yeah. So, I mean, I know you're burning your sage. We have all the good vibes in the air and everything. So, I just want to go back a little bit because it's like, people see the glam, they see the beauty, but who is Amy? So tell us just a little bit about your background. What made you even get into nursing in the first place, and how did you make your way into this field of aesthetics?
Wow. So we're going way back. All right. So let's go back to like somewhere in between, right? So well, my background in medicine, I was ER trauma prior to the aesthetics field. I'm gonna kind of pick it up from when I was in nursing school. How about that? So when I went to college, my first year, my mom was a labor and delivery nurse for almost 40 years before she left that and now helps support me at Gloderma. But I never said I didn't want to be in medicine. I just never really kind of considered as like, when I'm a little girl, I'm going to grow up and be a nurse and own a med spa. It wasn't kind of on the radar back then because, as we all know, medical aesthetics is still a very new sense of medicine. And so it definitely didn't happen that way. But I always loved to be creative and to bring people together and create art and beauty. I can't draw a stick figure, but I can sculpt faces and do other things. So artistic in different ways. And I think people can be artistic in all different ways and intelligent in different ways as well. It's kind of how you apply that to your life and your passion. So anyways, after my freshman year of college, I was working at a camp with kids with special needs, and I absolutely loved it. I was with two of my best friends, and it was probably one of the most challenging, jobs that I had, but I absolutely loved it. And I said, I always loved children. And I always loved, just helping people and everything. So I changed my major to nursing. I went to nursing. And when I graduated nursing school, I quickly got engaged to now my ex-husband. We were planning a wedding for the following year. I found out the weekend I passed my boards that I was pregnant. We bumped everything up. And from there on, I had my baby. And in 10 months, I was basically had my career. I was, married. I had a baby, all these things. So I like to move fast and furious. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. Mess around. So after that, I ended up, I was really, really so fortunate because I got a job in the ER working on the weekends. So I could be home with my children during the week. And so that's kind of how it was. And after that, I had 4 more. So 5 total, before I was 30. In 6 years, I had my Fab Five, who I call my, they're my heart and soul. And, it's amazing how the field of nursing and medicine can really evolve with you through your life. So after, fast forward, I had 5 babies, doing my thing. I really kind of like hit a point in my life where there was just some like personal situations that left me in a very vulnerable state, like with my relationship at the time, and compromising like some things within myself. And I kind of had like a spark in my mind go off and think, what can I do here that I like, there's something not, I didn't feel like anything was missing. I felt very complete as far as like with my family and what I was doing. I loved the ER. I wasn't running from it. And it's amazing how the universe works, and that when you stop kind of forcing things and you start to breathe and kind of look at things from a different perspective, how opportunities start like opening up. So I just kind of, I don't know. I got Botox for the first time. A nurse did it, and I just loved the experience. And I was thinking, what do I have to do to get into this? Because then 8 years ago, there wasn't a playbook. There still really isn't. I didn't know if I needed to go back for an advanced degree. I didn't know if there was a special program. So I just kind of had to figure it out and, do it, figure out what to do. So anyways, at the same time, I ended up befriending somebody, a doctor that was running one of the wellness centers at the gym that I was going to. And I was so broke. I just sold my engagement ring to buy my kids Christmas gifts and everything. And I borrowed $1,500 to my parents because my mom's like, I think you're going to be awesome at this. Like, go for it. I did my first course and I was hooked. I was the only nurse in that room. I was the first one to inject. Everyone was like freaking out. And I'm like, I did it. And I was like, and I fell in love with the emotion behind the injectable experience. I fell in love with how people were feeling, how they felt afterwards, how happy they felt, how confident, that relationship with that patient, and really helping them much more than just on the outside, but also helping cultivate and bring together, that inside piece. Because as we all know, looking and feeling your best is really something that is cohesive. You can't really have one without the other. And from there, I just hustled, girl. I hustled, and I was doing all this concierge stuff, and and I was trying to like figure out what to do. I took a position at a local med spa, and I was branding it like it was like my own. And about 18 months later, after I grew their business, quite significantly, I was like 2 years to the date of that first course that I couldn't afford, I opened up Gloderma, and here we are, 6 years later. Gloderma, Glow Academy. And that's it in a nutshell. I know that was a lot of content, but so I'm still aiming. I feel like with this industry, I've been so blessed because I feel like this has also kind of helped me come into my own as well in my career path. So I just truly think it's beautiful when a passion and something that you just feel is part of you becomes a career, then you can make a positive impact. And now with the education, it's like, I love the mentorship. I love like now that like we've, as this business is evolving and so many enthusiastic and energetic people want to come in, like collaborating with other professionals and really kind of having a voice for these practitioners that want to come into the space and helping them and guiding them as much as I can with my also amazing friends and colleagues in the industry. Like we're only better together. So that's kind of always been my mission back when I was 10, running carnivals in my backyard like a hustler. I'm kind of doing the same thing now. I'm like bringing people together. I just want you to know,
it is where I've been.
Right? Because I just want to love you. I mean, see, singing wasn't really, I can dance kind of. Anyway, so that's in a nutshell.
I love that. Oh my God. It's like, and something that you said is like, it really, you said you fell in love with how the feelings behind it and like how people felt after they got their treatments. Because I think that's the biggest thing in aesthetics or any other industry. It's like you don't really get to the next level until you fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes I think that's missing from the aesthetics industry. It's like, people are just trying to mask issues and what no offense to anyone, but I mean, I saw like someone getting threads and she was clearly very, 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 overweight, and she was getting threads in her neck to tighten or whatever. I'm like, I hope someone's telling her that she needs to take care of her actual health, because getting some
Right.
lips done, getting some facial balancing is not going to help, that she's just not loving herself enough to take care of herself otherwise.
Exactly, exactly. And that's so true, Leslie. It's like such a great point. When we opened, you know, my ER background, one thing was like the IV hydration therapy, and it was like still like very new. No one was really doing it in my area. And it was one of these aha moments when, you know, we would have somebody come in to the ER and they were, you know, intoxicated or whatever. We just give them like this banana bag, right, of
Mhm.
vitamins. And I'm like, if we can make them feel better, why are well people making them feel better? And why are we not like identifying underlying cause of some of, you know, people are getting sicker, and like kind of like thinking outside the box, as far as like more in the functional medicine type of scope of it. So I think that part that plays in both aspects, like in health, finding the underlying cause, right? When we're doing a facial assessment, what is actually causing these concerns, identifying that and working from the base up. And that
Mhm.
is also, I believe, like a metaphor in life, like kind of going inward, figuring out what we need to like maybe heal as humans, and kind of like apply that in our careers. And I think that that's something that can translate, you know, that energy can translate beautifully while we are all like acting as more or less healers, right? We have the
Yeah.
opportunity to make an impact in a different way in medicine. You know, ER people are more or less choosing, they're not choosing to be there. And
Mhm.
with us, you could go to a million other providers, right? But the
Mhm.
fact that they're choosing to sit in your chair, choosing to trust you with, you know, things that are optional in their lives, like this isn't like life or death, right? So it's like they're trusting with you, and to never, ever, ever lose sight of that and be humble and stay grounded, because, and always know that you need to go in there every day and level up your game, continuing to advance your skills and knowledge so that you can deliver the best you know, responsible treatment and experience for patients. And I think that that's something that, you know, you brought back the glitz and the glam and all the fun. And yes, it is fun, right? It's fun.
Mhm.
And you're in this energy and everybody's pumped up, and you put your bunch of highly charged, you know, like-minded individuals together who are all doing very similar things. And yeah, it's about perception. Like you and I were talking about off camera before, like
Yeah.
perception. But what they don't see is all the work that it kind of took to get there, right?
Get
Necessarily,
there.
or, you know, the exhausting late, you know, hours of work that you're putting into these presentations before you have to go up on their stage, the mental practice that you have to get to your point to know that like when you go up there, you need to like present in a way that you're getting your message out there and that it's clear. And
Mhm.
there's so many dynamics that go into it, like taking
Yes.
care of your own body, and we're all
Yes.
like a little sleep deprived, right? And we all have like a thousand other projects, and we're all a little ADD, and we're excited to like do things. But the amount of focus and actually like centering yourself and dedication that it takes to some of these other things, it's like you're basically, people are seeing a reel of our life, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
our lives are really fun and they're really awesome. We all love it so much. So I think that
Yeah.
goes out, but it's also, there's a lot of serious work and a lot of serious
Yeah.
dedication and prioritizing that going behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
I think that that's something that maybe should start to be like, you know, kind of like just being honest and about some of these experiences that we've all had, and kind of sharing that to make people feel more comfortable, and like we're all human beings, like we're
Yes.
humans, you know,
Yeah.
we're not perfect.
We're not. And I think sometimes too, what happens with that, as leaders and, as a woman and like, you're leading your family, for example, and, now you're a single mom, like you have a support system, you have foundations around you, which are good. However, like, people are looking to, you, me, whatever, people are looking up. And it's just like sometimes, and this is like, so my question to you and for our listeners too, is just like, so when you're in a position of leadership, because there's a little quote that says, like, people don't want to care about they don't care about the struggle when you're going through it. They care that you overcame it. So how do you think people who are rising in leadership should balance those two, like being authentic, but also protecting their vulnerability?
Wow, so that's an excellent question and like such a good topic. My goodness. So, all right. So, me personally, backing up that story, I mentioned clippets as far as like, you know, some of these hardships and like, you know, just in a very quick you know, blast. I could say
Hmm.
for me, when I was a young mom, I was, you know, having all my children, and people would look at me like, "Oh my God, how do you have five little children under the age of 6? you run all the PTO things. I was that mom. You're everyone's, homeroom mom. You're running around. You put yourself together in the morning, blah, 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 blah. You're organizing. I was, again, organizing all these like play groups and like all this stuff. Like, how come you aren't having an absolute meltdown, right? So, and I also, at the time, my marriage was not 100% either. But you know what? I put on that mask, and I love being a mom. That's number one. I love what I was doing with that. But I definitely was portraying to the world that there were no cracks in the foundation, right? I think what happened was like, at that time, like you do have these moments that you're like, okay, I'm leading the ship here. I have to be strong for my family, my children, and I need to become resilient, and I need to get us out of situations, because those 5 humans in my life are my most important things. Like, without that, what's the purpose, right? Why put on a mask and like act like everything is so great, and like, it's like not being authentic to your true self, and for what? To sacrifice them? It's not worth it. So I think like once I kind of was able to get real with myself first, and then kind of like, have some like deep reflection. And I then, guess what? The opportunity of like aha moments. I'm like, it was like a breakthrough, like, okay, this is what I should be doing. This is what I'm going to throw myself into as far as in aesthetics. And I think it hasn't really even been, I mean, my parents who, I couldn't do all this without their love and support with the children and everything. They didn't even know, they knew a little, but they didn't even know about some of those really like details, because I was too focused on like, I got myself in this predicament, I'm going to fight my way out of it. Like, or I was always a we thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to take those steps to kind of like improve what is going on, because I also didn't want to necessarily show weakness. Right. Yeah. So I think that now going out of it, there is that balance. Like, I can tell these stories now because I feel like so many people are probably in the same situation where they're like, they're afraid to share because they're afraid of being vulnerable, because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of being, looked at in a way that maybe isn't, this like hierarchy, like whatever you want to call that. Right. But I think that the more, I think us as providers, us as humans, to really be authentic in what we do, I think the more I open up and share certain stories with, like, within boundaries, with the right people, and trusting with that, if I can affect and make a positive impact on one person, or make someone like, wow, that story resonated with me, and I was in a place in my life that I didn't feel like I could do it. And they're like, I heard you, like, kind of like your path of everything, like that gives me hope. And that makes me want to connect. And that makes me want to work a little harder, or maybe remove some of this toxicity from my life. Like, then I feel like all the other stuff doesn't really much matter. It's the fact that you're making an impact in other humans' lives. And I think that that's also like with this industry as it grows, it's like always going back to that, not getting lost in yourself, not getting lost in all the other like distractions, and kind of like, so I truly think that as a leader, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to be honest with certain, with what you've gone through, and tell your story, because I truly think it could be impactful to somebody's life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it still goes back to, they don't want to hear the story, they want to hear the glory. Because especially as Americans, or people that have grown up in America, we're obsessed with that hero, or in our case, shero. It's like these are all the obstacles, these are all the bad things, and I clawed my way through them, and I came out triumphant. We're obsessed with that. That's why we love Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, and we love all these things, because those all people that had a huge thing that was against them, and they crashed through it. Because everyone wants that power to be able to say, wow, this is something I can look up to, because they had a situation, like you said, like I'm going through, and they got through it, and they're even better now than they were then. That's what everybody wants.
I agree. And I think that happens in cycles throughout your life. Like, it's not just one breakthrough, it's another like breakthrough. And I think the more you kind of tap into that, and like, what is your true authentic self? I remember reading an article about, with children. I see that with my own kids too. By the age around 10 to 12, like up to that point, like we're all like these like innocent, basically somewhat untainted, human beings. And like, what did you like to do at those ages? Right? Like if you actually think back, and what this article mentioned was that not in the same sense. Like, I'm not like being like silly here. I'm like, but if you could actually go back and say, what was your natural interest at that time in your life, and think about it, like, how could that play into your now self, your adult self? If you could somehow connect those pieces, like I did, like I used to, like, I mean, I was running stuff in my neighborhood. It was like carnivals. And I'm not talking just like, let's have 5 people in the backyard. I'm talking, got my brother on the bike with his friends, go around, get people here. I'm telling like my friends to like go to their, their parents' house, get ice cream sundae table on, let's have games. We're running obstacles, charging admission, giving away my brother's like, stuffed animals as a thing. My dad would come home from work and be like, what is going on here? I mean, I'm talking full on operations, right? And like, so then like productions with shows and all these things. And I'm like, it's so interesting because no, I'm not running a carnival, right? But I'm like created like this like aesthetic kind of oasis with a group of people that I believe in, to call the squad, that we're working together, right, for a common goal. With Flow Academy, the same thing, these collaborations, like I'm bringing together like-minded people to learn, to grow, to like come together as like for a common good, with all my amazing relationships of my colleagues in that, some of my bestest friends in the world that I'm meeting in my 40s. What do? We collaborate, we network, we're together, we're trying to be cohesive to make an impact that's positive. So whether it's a carnival, whether it's a business, whether it's, projects, whether it's whatever the heck, right? The actual root concept of bringing together people to make a positive impact is actually very much the same. So
I love that for you. And I wish, any of you guys that are listening, I hope you can find that for yourself, kind of connect, sounds corny, but like, connect with your inner child, because it's like, yeah, like you said, we're not going to be like, I can't dance until, I fall and just go to sleep for 2 days. Like I can't do like when I was, that's not going to happen.
no.
I'm not a little kid anymore. Your responsibilities, but it's just like things that you were really good at or that you just naturally gravitated towards. All of those childlike tendencies can be brought forth in your adult life and be very impactful, because people like to work with people who know who they are.
Yes, agreed.
And that's the key.
For sure. So that's kind of like in a nutshell, like it's really interesting. My Nana said to me, I was like, my mom's one of 7, lots of grandkids. And my Nana used to say to me when I was like a little girl, she's like, she's going to be sitting behind a big mahogany desk running the show. So I was like 2, right? And my Nana always knew, like she had this Italian intuition of like things, and she would say things sometimes. I'm like, what? That sounds like, are we serious? What? And then she told me that. I'm like, so I think that it's important to pay attention to that, because I think society also, with distraction and like all these things, like you could get lost in it so easily. And we've all seen it happen, right? Whether it's friends, whether it's people in the industry, whether it's us personally too. Like, I mean, it's also human nature, and we can be kind to the fact that you can get lost sometimes, but that idea of just going back to the core, what makes you want to wake up every day excited and energetic, and that will lead to success in whatever way that shows up. That doesn't just mean money. Money will come, that aspect will come, but if you are doing it with intention for good, in my personal opinion, whether success shows up in happiness in relationship, with success shows up with just you being, being proud and energetic to do what you're supposed to be doing, or in finances, and which you have a whole platform with all of that, Leslie, which is so impressive what you've built. Because I think with all that hype and all this loveliness stuff, like that we're saying, like kumbaya and grit, you also have to be very smart with where you do like kind of invest your finances, and that you're doing smart and you don't get lost in all of that as well, because it moves very quickly. So I think you've done an absolute amazing job with coming up with this idea of having like that specific to medical aesthetic providers, because many times in medicine, we could be great at one thing, but we're not necessarily the best in financial like decisions or in business, right? So I think that it's amazing that you have these resources that can help kind of connect the two concepts. I know you're part of game, business as well.
Yeah.
which is, I think, a phenomenal concept that Galderma has put together. And
That's
I think that
awesome.
that's really, really good. So you can do all these creative things, you can do what you're good at, but you have the foundation and the core that is going to keep you stable and grounded, so that you're able to truly put your true self out there in the world.
And it's true. And it's funny you say that. I mean, it's like, guys, so in my report card when I was young, it said, Leslie is a joy to have in class, but she talks too much with her peers. I was,
Me too.
yeah, me. And so I would get separated from my friends. And then I'd make friends with the person that was not my friend. I'd be like, hey, Michael. And he'd be like, oh. And it's like, and so like,
Yeah.
that's how I was. And like, I was very creative. I was always drawing. I went to school for, pipe organ performance and violin and English literature. I was like one of those crazy girls in school that was like, do
Yeah.
everything.
I
Um,
love that.
my
Yeah.
burnout story we're not going to talk about today, but it's just like, yeah. And
That'll
so
be the
like all
next
these
podcast.
things, the next podcast. So it's like all these things, but then I find it's just like, in life, people sometimes say like, Leslie, you have a financial practice and you also have a video branding practice. Like, how are you doing this? I'm like, because it's me. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're, and like, I speak a lot and that's something, I'm like, all these things from when I was a kid, like you said, Amy, I found ways to connect them in my adult life. But what I
Yes.
did, just like you did, we have become intentional. So I think that's the key, guys. It's like
Yeah.
figure out what you love to do when you're young, figure out how that translates into a skill you can get paid for as an adult, and
Yeah.
then merge those things together and really be intentional about every move you make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And then, Amy, then also, just real quick, because I know we're running down on time here, but I just want to talk about like, for those of the, listeners who are thinking about like building a team, when you are building a team, how do you create a culture that makes people stick?
Yeah. So how do you build a culture? So I think it starts with the leader, right?
Hmm.
It all
Hmm.
goes back to the leader. They're going to set the tone. I think that you attract what you're putting out there, right? I've been very fortunate. I haven't always been 100%, but I can tell you my team right now, like I've never felt so just grateful and proud and again, like just want them to succeed. And I tell them all the time, it's autonomy within a framework. Your
Hmm.
success in this, I'm going to provide a platform, right? I'll be the base. I'm going to do everything I can to mentor and like kind of cultivate that vibe and everything like that, and your skills and knowledge, and give you the resources. But then it's what you do with that is going to make you elevate in your career and so on and so forth. So I think that it does start with the leader and like kind of like, making sure you set the tone, making sure that you have people around you that are on the same mission, have the same mentality as you are. I take a lot of time with hiring. I don't hire fast at all. I like to do many different tools. I use Titan recruiting now with Mary Beth. She does a great
Yeah.
job with even identifying, basically like how is somebody in the mindset, because everyone wants in on this business now, right? But like, are they actually in it, that they can have potential as far as applying it? So it's a very comprehensive. I don't know if you've ever like looked at some of her assessment tools, but it's really awesome. Like just identifying like just different things anatomically on someone's face and kind of just doing, it's not like, are you going to be good or are you going to be bad? It's kind of like, where are you now?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so with that evaluation then can grow into, mentorship if it seems to be a proper fit. So I take a lot of time with really like, because once they're in, it's up to me also and them, but really me to kind of like pour a lot of time and a lot of energy into making sure that they are able to grow, because it's all about, Gloderma is all about opportunity.
Yeah.
Glow Academy is all about opportunity, right? So you just have to be careful with who you bring into it. But when you have the right seeds planted and you're able to grow, then you're also able to do other things. Like the amount of time I travel now and I'm training and I'm like the voice, like you said, being out there and like something's calling me to be out there more. I wouldn't be able to be out there more and to have an successful businesses back at home if my foundation wasn't good. And then
Yeah.
something would have to be sacrificed, right? That whole idea of having things, we chatted about this when we were in Connecticut last week, like there is no balance, right? There is no
No.
balance. So let's just take the pressure off of balance, right? But that word balance, I think, is so intense. Like it's like then you feel like, oh my gosh, well, if something doesn't go right, then am I a failure? Am I messing up? Am I making the right choices?
Exactly.
I think we have to give ourselves a little bit more love and compassion and be like, you know what? Things might not always be equal. And certain times, certain things are going to require your attention more, right? But that's okay.
Yes.
Make sure you have people and like your systems are totally in alignment so that you're able to do that. Because if you're all over the place and it's like, you know, you have this business going and that business going, your team is losing their minds and all these other things are happening, then that's when things start to go through the wayside, you know? So I think that, you know, just really like taking your time, getting the people around you, really developing them, really mentoring them, whether they're providers or whether they're support staff, it doesn't matter. Every single person is valued from the team. And I think that that's really important too, to make sure that it is a mutual relationship back and forth that has to be respectful, but we also have a ton of fun. So like, it's like, you have to have that, you know, that's the balance, work and play, you know?
Yes. And guys, we'll leave you with that really, like, that's really like the key. And we've been talking about foundations throughout this whole, I feel like that's like been the common thread, foundations. Yeah. You know, even when you're building a face, foundations. Like, you know,
underlying cause. I know. Yeah, this was deep. I'm gonna be like dissecting this conversation because we didn't know what we were gonna go talking about today. We're like, let's just like talk about something and see where it goes, which I love because you really, I have like goosebumps right now thinking about that. Maybe it was the stage that I lit earlier, you know?
It might be the stage. It came through the computer. Like, I'm in Texas right now. It came through. I'm like, ooh.
It's my routine. Wow. I'm like,
yes. My arms look great. Like,
man, they do look good. You looking
Sorry,
good,
guys.
girl.
I just got real conceited for like 2 minutes.
Conceited.
Okay. It's called
confident.
Hey. Okay. Guys, oh my God, Amy, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Casty Cast.
I love you.
Guys, you know, all of her handles, you're probably already following her, but all her handles and everything are going to be in the show notes. And like we said, definitely check out the Academy, the Cadaver Labs, things that are happening, because in this industry, like Amy said, I haven't gotten anywhere that I am without relationships. I'm not going to get anywhere where I'm going without relationships. And to develop good, authentic relationships with people who only say good things about you, even when you're not in the room, that's it, baby.
That's it.
And you got to do the same thing too. So like I said, and I always say on my Instagram, don't be talking shit about people, okay?
Never good.
Unless they do bad things to you, then talk shit about them all you want.
It's called karma. It ends up being karma, right? Karma. You don't even need to say anything. All right, guys.
Next time.
Thank you so much. Love you guys.
Did you learn something? Then please leave us a review. I appreciate your feedback. It means the world. See you next week.